Hi again, welcome to Chess Based Workshop. My name is Steve Lopez. Thank you for clicking on the link to join us today. People ask me all the time, how do you get Fritz, Ribka, or any of the other programs, Shredder, Junior, High Arts, how do you get them to play against each other? Or how do you get them to play against themselves, is what I'm actually trying to say here. How do you get Fritz to play against itself? You can do it, you just got to know how. And there's not a big screaming button that says get Fritz to play against itself. So what I'm going to show you today is how this is done. Where you go is you go to Analysis up here at the top in the software, and you'll see a button here that says Shootout. You'll notice there's a little mouse over that pops up. Play a computer match from the current position. So, you can have it play a game right from the start if you wish. I could start Shootout right now and get it to play against itself right from the beginning of a game of chess. But one of the things you can do that's really interesting with this is set up a position or go to a position in a game and have Fritz play it out against itself. And that's what I prefer to do, so that's what we're going to look at here. First of all, I'm going to go to the database game list screen by hitting F12 on the keyboard. The other way to do it, of course, is to go here and click on the big database button. Either will do. I'm going to hit the button on the keyboard. I was in another database earlier. I'm going to come over here to the application menu and pick a database called Caricon Positions that I've created. Main line 1, double click on it, and that'll bring us back to the screen where we have a line of play that I've entered. If we jump right to the end, I left it off here, and this is one of those positions where the books will generally tell you this is an even position. This is equal. Neither side has a definite advantage in this position after this particular line of play. In fact, if you want to see the moves, we'll go through them. This is just your typical mainline Caricon. In fact, I'm a Caricon player, and this was the first variation that I ever learned. Up to about this point or so. And they can go different ways. That brings us to the end of the variation, just so you know where we are. You go to Analysis. Once you have your position set up where you want to start the analysis from, go to Analysis and select Shootout. Take you to another screen here, and you can set up the parameters for Shootout. You can set different times if you want to have the program play against itself with time controls, blitz game or long game. You can do that. I like to do fixed depth, and what that means is that, I'll show you down here. We'll get to that in a moment. We're going to do fixed depth, move limit, leave it at 999. A chess game will never go that long, so that's fine. That just basically tells the software, play it to the end. Play it out. Now, unless you just want to see, for example, what it thinks the next 10 or 12 moves would be, in which case you could set this to a lower number. But I want it to play complete games right out to the end, so I leave it at 999. Depth. If you select fixed depth, what you can do is set it to play a game at 3 plies. The first game it'll play, it'll do a 3-ply search. White to move in this position, Fritz will look ahead 3 plies, 3 half moves. A move for white, move for black, another move for white. Make that best move that it finds. Then it'll switch to black, look at a move for black, a move for white, another move for black, make the best move it finds at that point, and repeat the process until it completes the game. Notice, however, I have depth 3 to 11, but only says 5 games here. Why is that? Because I have skip even plies checked. I'm not going to go through a long explanation of this. Just trust me on this. I've written at length about it in other places in the past. But what it basically is a lot of chess computer software can become tactically blind at even ply search depths. It'll do a search and it'll make a move and not see a tactical shot that can be played in reply because it cuts the search off at a particular point. It's more prone to do that at even plies than at odd plies. So, in other words, when it's looking ahead, even plies, let's say it's white's turn to move. White moves, black moves, white moves, black moves. That's 4 plies. Black has played a move that sets up a tactical shot, and because it is a even ply search depth, the computer doesn't see it, so it'll go ahead and make that first white move, and then it's curtains for white at that point because black has played something devastating on that 4th ply. So what you want to do is And you always want to have it, the last move of the search, be for the moving side. So that's why you skip even plies. I hope that made sense. As I said, I've written about it at length, and it works better when I write about it than when I try to describe it. So what happens here, we're going to have 5 games. One will be at a depth of 3 plies, one at 5, one at 7, one at 9, and one at 11. So it'll play 5 games. And these are relatively shallow search depths, but the reason why I'm doing a shallow depth is because I can actually have the software play them all out for us immediately while we wait. Participants are here. This will be blank when you first come into this dialog the first time. So to set up a participant, you click New, and that'll bring up your engine list. You can just scroll down to select the engine that you want to use. We'll make it Fritz 12. Permanent brain's fine. Use table bases is fine. I'll set a hash table size fairly small because, first of all, these are shallow search depths. Second of all, I'm running a video here. I'm running video capture software, so I don't want to slow my computer down and make my video choppy. So we click OK, and you'll see it appear here. That's all you have to do. You set this up, and again, you can do it with time controls. If you wanted to, you could click on Blitz Game, and you get your dialogue for, like you see when you set up a game to play against Fritz. Same thing with long game. But I'm going to do fixed depth, 3 to 11, skip even plies. It'll play 5 games, and it will start right now. That game is done. 5 ply game. Done. 7 ply game. This is running a little bit slower than I'm used to, again, because I'm running video capture software. By this time, we'd already be into the 11 ply game if I wasn't making a video of this. But it's still pretty rapid. Now you can, by the way, get rid of this window that says technical messages. You can clear that dialog by clicking close, and that does not affect your game. The reason I'm leaving it open is I want to show you something here directly when this game is finished. Notice that each game is a little bit slower than the one before it, again because Fritz is searching to a deeper search depth each time. If you look down at the bottom of the screen in the engine analysis pane, you will see that it gets to an 11 ply search depth and then makes a move. And we are done. And what we notice here is this, that even though it's an even position, white has scored 60%. If you look at the exact results, the last 2 games were draws. So the deeper the software looks, we find out that that analysis is probably correct. It probably is a level position, although it's hard to judge from 5 games, of course. But at 9 and 10 ply search depths, the games were drawn. At a shallow search depth of 3, black wins, and at 5 and 7 ply searches, white wins. Now, if you want to see the actual games, excuse me, you just click close, and if you hit F12 or go to database, it'll take you back to the screen. Now, notice this is going to look like the database I had before, but if you look closely, main line 1 is every single game, and you notice it says shootout, Fritz, 3 ply, 5 ply, 7, 9, and 11. And you can actually just click on a game and just play it out. Or if you want, just make that a little bit smaller, make that a little bit smaller, and you can have a better look at the notation of the game. This brings us to the point at which the game started. Notice that all the moves that were actually played by Fritz have numerical analysis here. The positional evaluation and how deep it's searched. Notice that it's always a 3 ply search, but the evaluation, of course, changes as the game goes on. So there we go. You can take a look. Play through the game if you wish to see how it all turned out. Oh yeah, this is ugly. And at that point, apparently White threw in the towel. So there you go. And go to F12 excuse me, double click again, and we can play through another game at a deep reply depth, etc. Something else you can do that's interesting, go back to the game list, and we will go back to our original database and reload that position, because I'd like to show you something else. Go back to analysis, go to shootout. If you want to get rid of an engine and use a different engine, just highlight the engine and click delete. That does not delete the engine off your hard drive. It should say remove rather than delete. That wording scares people sometimes. But you can actually you can set this up to have more than one chess engine play against itself. So we'll come back down here. Let me see what I want. I'm going to go ahead and use Fritz again, I guess. And we'll add old Fritzy. And then we'll add, let me see if we put in Ribka 4 this time also. And now what's going to happen is we're going to have 10 games instead of 5. We have 2 engines now. Fritz will play against itself, and Ribka will play against itself. And I think, if I remember correctly, we'll find out here in a moment, I believe they alternate games. I believe Fritz will play one at 3 plies, then Ribka will play a game at 3 plies, then Fritz will play one at 5 plies, Ribka will play one at 5 plies, etc. Well, let's find out. You can set up as many engines as you want to. This will always tell you the number of games that are going to be played. And now you just click OK and let her rip. There goes Fritz. Yeah, here comes Ribka now, so they do alternate. It does take a little more time to have them alternate, by the way, because they have to unload an engine and reload an engine each time. But what's interesting about it is that you can always go into your database, as we'll see here shortly, and excuse me, the games that they play at 3 ply excuse me, will always be one right after the other. And then the games they play at 5 ply will be one right after the other. And then, of course, same for 7, 11, or 7, 9, and 11. As I said, you can close this. It does not affect the game, but it does pop that window open again, and you'll just have to keep closing it. So in the early going, when it's a 3 ply, 5 ply, whatever, I let it sit there. But when you get into longer plies, it's interesting to remove the dialogue and actually watch the game. And we see it was a draw up here at the top of this. It does blank everything that happened before, but we do see that this was a draw. Now we're up to an 11 ply search. And you may very well, when you do this, by the way, if you have time and you want to sit and watch the game, you can set it up for higher number of plies. You could start it at an 11 ply search depth, for example, and run it from, say, an 11 to a 19 ply search depth. So you'd have 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19. It just takes a bit more time, and obviously I didn't want to do that for the sake of a video. But absolutely, you're better off doing higher search depths because you get better play from the software, as we've mentioned many, many times before. Software will always give you the best move it finds in the time that you, or within the parameters that you set for it, and the time you allow for it, or parameters such as search depth that you limit it to. Notice too that when there's captures, when there's forcing moves, it goes a lot quicker. You'll see it go through a bunch of moves when there are captures and checks. So we're done. We can go to our game list now. We can take a look, and here we've got Fritz at 3 plies, Ribka at 3 plies, and notice once again when you get into a 9 to 11 ply search depth, once again the games are all drawn. So we can draw a conclusion from this over time if we play some more games. If that continues to be a trend, we can say that the book that told us this is an equal, was a level position, equal position, is most likely correct. So that's one of the cool things you can do with shootout, is feed a position to the software and let one engine, multiple engines play against itself. You can look at the games, watch them being played, play over them later, and decide for yourself whether an evaluation in a book on the openings, for example, is correct. Is this an equal position? Is white a little bit better here, etc.? So that's an interesting use for the shootout feature. But as I said, you can also just have a program play against itself. All you'd have to do is just go to New Game, select Analysis, and just click Shootout. Set your parameters and let it rip. It's that simple. Till next time, for Chess Based Workshop, I'm Steve Lopez, reminding you to please do have fun,